Howdy y'all, my name's Woody, and this video is going to cover everything you need to know about the Clash Royale April 2019 update. There's a lot of new content, and I'm really excited to hop into this developer build and give you a sneak peek at all the new features. We've got a new progression system called the Trophy Road, 3 new game modes to play, and a brand new rare card called the Earthquake spell. But first off to the Trophy Road. Every 50 trophies that you collect will earn you a new small reward. Sometimes you get to choose between a couple different cards, other times you'll grab some gems, sometimes you'll unlock a new chest or grab some more gold to throw in the bank, and there's even a couple of emotes that you can unlock. But the bigger reward comes each time you reach a new arena. Every time you do that, you get a 1-day chest booster that cuts in half the time to unlock any new chest, and it drops a new trophy gate that prevents you from backsliding to the previous arena. That's particularly helpful if you've done a lot of work pushing and then happen to go on a losing streak. You won't lose all your progress anymore. On top of that, if you want to try out a new deck that you aren't really familiar with yet, you can feel free to do so without risking all your trophies. I think the best part about this though is that it means that people who have really high level cards and a lot of trophies aren't able to drop down into lower arenas anymore and farm easy wins against players. I think that that's going to be really well received, and players are going to respond pretty well to this new progression system. But don't worry if you have a lot of trophies, you're going to unlock all the rewards that you've earned up to the point where you're already at, just as soon as you log in after the update drops. If you have at least 3,950 trophies, you'll unlock all the rewards at once, which will come to a sum total of approximately 31,929 gold, 1,362 common cards, 362 rare cards, 75 epics, 2 legendaries, 100 gems, and a couple of emotes if you hadn't unlocked them already. Each season in Legendary Arena also offers new rewards through the Trophy Road. You no longer are going to get that same draft chest that you've been able to have in the past, but instead, those rewards are going to be spread out during the course of the season as you progress along the Trophy Road. And it starts off pretty modest with a lightning chest, some tokens and gold, but eventually you get to a legendary chest, and you get to my favorite reward at 5,450 trophies, 100 gems, which you can put toward challenges or save up for emotes. Spend them however you like. Then if you happen to make it to the very top, up by Royal, or Ultimate Champion rather, at 6,900 trophies, you'll unlock a Legendary King's Chest. Fantastic reward for the very top players. Let's take a quick look now at the 3 new game modes that are coming out. The first one is the Mega Deck Challenge, which completely throws out the window all the rules we've had for Clash Royale. No longer are you using an 8-card deck, but an 18-card deck. This completely changes the way that your cycle is going to work. It's no longer 4 cards, but 14. You're no longer going to be able to rely on just one win condition because you're going to have 18 cards that you're going to have to build around, and you're very much more likely going to be building to try to have cards that synergize with everything in the deck rather than just one key win condition that, it's like a big golem push with a lumberjack and a baby dragon and a night witch behind it. No, you're gonna have to be much more adaptable to all the cards that are in your deck and be willing to put together a push that might not really seem to make sense, but if you think that you've caught your opponent off guard without the right cards to defend, could wind up working out well anyways. It could be that the Mega Deck Challenge completely turns the whole game on its head, but I think it's more likely that we're still going to see some elements of Clash Royale able to persevere kind of through on in this Mega Deck Challenge. Most likely we're going to see general deck archetypes still persist, in which you want to have the same sorts of cards working in tandem with one another. Like you could run a Hog Rider, Ram Rider, and Battle Ram deck pretty well together. You could try like a swarmy deck with like Spellbait. You might run like a double siege deck or a super hyper beatdown deck that has like Giant and Golem and P.E.K.K.A in it. But at the end of the day, it's all up to the players who are at the very top who are going to figure out what the best decks are. It's going to be up to the creative guys out there who are going to figure out what is going to work best. So please let me know down in the comments below if you have any ideas about what might work particularly well, and I'll be sure to keep an eye out on Royale API and share any findings that I might have about some of the top decks and top cards in this game mode. Next off though, let's look at the second game mode that's going to be coming out. It is called Dragon Hunt. Dragon Hunt is unique in that it's going to spawn a dragon egg in the center of the map with 2,120 hit points for either player. That's the same as 2 lumberjacks, so it's relatively beefy. You got to deal quite a bit of damage to crack it open. You're going to want to immediately drop troops to start whacking away at it. Don't do what I did and wait a little while there. This was just a sample to show you the mechanics of the game, but as soon as you crack open that dragon egg, whoever gets the damage in first is going to get either a baby dragon, an Elixir dragon, or an Inferno dragon. Very helpful to get another 4 or 5 Elixir troop to help support your push. And you'll pretty soon find out that whoever cracks open more dragon eggs is very likely to win this game mode. Whoever has really high DPS per cost troops is going to be more likely to be able to get through that dragon egg's shell first and be able to support their next push. It's actually oftentimes more important to get that dragon egg open than to put together an ideal push, because it means that you get a 4 or 5 elixir swing in your favor that your opponent then has to spend another 3 or 4 elixir to try to deal with. A lot of times you'll get a lot of troops stacked up in the middle of the map that are kind of wailing away on that dragon egg. Then when it finally pops, there will be a big swing one way or the other toward whichever player unlocked that dragon egg. So I highly recommend not worrying as much about the crown towers in this game and focusing more instead on getting that dragon egg every single time. Even if you have to save up some elixir and don't get to make an awesome push, it might be worth it. On the other hand, though, if you can distract your opponents by putting a big push on their tower, and then while they're trying to play defense, cracking open the egg, that can work out pretty well too. Overall, though, it's more important to crack open that dragon egg than it is to put together a really big push, especially because that enables you to prevent your opponent from getting that 4 or 5 elixir beast, and then, you know, cycling back to your next stage of attack. So in Dragon Hunt, the respawn of that dragon egg in the center is going to happen about every 35 seconds. There's going to be a beam of light that comes up from the river in the center there to let you know that it's about to respawn. That's when you got to really prepare and get your damage in. I think it's really important to focus not too much on troops that target buildings, because even though they will be able to target that dragon egg in the center, it's going to be kind of difficult to get the dragon behind that troop if you don't already have it kind of out in front when the dragon egg spawns. On top of that, a lot of times you can get more damage out of troops that don't target buildings through things like a mini P.E.K.K.A. or Mega Minion. I think are both going to work out pretty quite well. So let's take a look at the game mode number 3 next. Game mode number 3 is Elixir Capture. And just like that Dragon Hunt mode, you're going to have an Elixir Storage in the middle of the map, but instead of getting a dragon from it, you get 2 Elixir, which isn't quite as valuable as a dragon, but it does let you build up a push the way that you want to. You're not kind of forced to send out this dragon into the middle of the map at kind of a random time. You can choose to use that elixir on defense rather than on offense if you think that you need to save up some more juice for the next attack that's coming on in. So it will reward players who are very careful about their elixir management, and I think will be a little bit more of a careful style of gameplay rather than the more kind of haphazard kill the dragon egg as quickly as possible. It is possible to make negative elixir trades going for the pump in the center, or rather the elixir storage in the center, just because it only rewards 2 when you crack it down. That is a lot, and you do want to try to get it if at all possible, but it's not like a do or die type situation as much as it was to get the dragon egg. Now there's also going to be elixir droplets spawning on the bridge. As you can see, that one on the left side just spawned. Whenever you place a troop on top of that droplet, it will collect it and give the elixir to you. That's a nice little bonus, in addition to the fact that you're moving into attack. With those troops now, sometimes you can get basically free troops if you deploy like skeletons or an ice spirit on the bridge, and it denies your opponent from getting that elixir, so it's very rarely a mistake to play a little cheap troop on the bridge to get that done. But as you can see, the player who winds up getting more elixir storages tends, once again, to be the favorite in this game mode. Spells also work pretty well because they often let you take out troops that are attacking the elixir storage and get damage on the elixir storage at the same time, clearing up a little bit more leeway for your own troops to get the damage in and win the game. So elixir droplets spawn on this bridge every 20 seconds, as opposed to the storage, which respawns about every 30 seconds. It's really important to have cheap melee cards in both of these 2 game modes to take out that center storage as quickly as possible, or the dragon egg as quickly as possible. And you got to be careful with ranged troops in this game mode, because as soon as that egg or storage spawns, they will turn directly toward it and start firing away. Melee troops are a bit safer because they'll actually continue walking toward whatever is closest, sometimes an enemy troop, and chop at that instead. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the new card that's being released. It is called the Earthquake Spell. Earthquake Spell is a 3 elixir spell. It's a rare card, and it deals 61 damage per second to ground troops and 244 damage per second to buildings. That's a lot of damage against buildings. It's extremely effective against Elixir Collector, where it gets a +2 positive elixir trade against it and damage against the tower. And it's also relatively effective against ground troops that are coming at you. Anything like a goblin gang or skeleton army gets an even trade with. But it's also really good against any other building that's set up offensively, whether it's like an expo or a mortar that's coming at you. You can damage the tower and that building at the same time. Or you can also just use it to take out a spawner that's in the back. It works wonders against anything that's spitting out troops as well, because it's able to damage those ground troops as they're emerging from the spawner. So let's take a quick look at some of the interactions in this game here. You can see I'm playing Earthquake on both sides just to give you a sense for kind of how it performs against these swarmy type troops. Doesn't do very well against Royal Hogs, as you saw right there. They're just a bit too beefy to have to worry about that Earthquake spell. It slows them down a little bit, so it might give you a little bit of a buffer to deploy something else to take out medium waves of troops, but ultimately I found Earthquake was really only effective against buildings and occasionally against swarms as kind of a last resort. I think that the card is a little bit underpowered, and I expect it to maybe wind up getting buffed, but it's really hard to say. Tornado on its initial release was not really considered a very good card, but it wound up being extremely powerful in the right hand, so it might wind up being the same way with this Earthquake spell. Ultimately, if you have a deck that doesn't work very well against siege elements like Expo or Mortar, you still may be able to run it if you have an Earthquake spell on your deck. But if you do choose to run Earthquake, you're going to have to be very careful about also including cards, particularly another spell, that can deal damage to flying troops. Since Earthquake can't hit flying troops, you're going to want to probably run like a poison or at least a zap or a fireball to be able to hit those flying targets. And since it can't hit flying targets, I expect to see lots more flyers in the metagame if Earthquake were to become popular. Things like Lava Hound and other aerial troops will work quite well if you don't have to worry about an Earthquake only hitting the ground troops beneath them. So that's going to be all of the new game modes, all the new cards to check out. Thank you very much for tuning in. We've got a little bit more to cover. I guess there's some cosmetic changes to the menus where some of the buttons are getting moved around. There's a couple of new star point upgrades that you can make to some troops. Actually, the upgrade for the rocket is pretty cool. You'll have to watch that somewhere else. But thank you very much for tuning in, and a special thank you and shout out to Radical Rosh, who made this beautiful brand new overlay for me. Many thanks to him. I really appreciate it and love the work that he did on that. But if you want to follow me and get more information about more Clash Royale content, please follow me on Twitter at Woody Talks. You can find that down below. And till next time, hope you'll have a great time with this new April update, and I'll see you around.